Hi, so the last video I had just a few minutes left and I ran out of time. I wasn't able to get to this last concept, so I anticipate this will be a quick video. And this is idea of transforming quadratics. Remember, transforming means you're just moving the parabola. So let's talk about how that will look real quick. So let's consider this g of x equals negative 2 times the quantity of x plus 2 squared plus 3. And I'll just quickly go over these steps. We can even do a lot of it in our heads mentally just because I want to show you more about the transforming than how to work this out. So I already made a table and I've already chose some numbers. We have to find the vertex, so let's review that real quick. How do we find the vertex? Again, it's this formula that we've gone over many times, a vertex form, that the axis of symmetry is going to be this negative h, the h, and the k will be the height. So looking at this one, a negative 2, because it's a 2, you do the opposite, and the height would be a 3. Our vertex is done. So let's substitute these numbers in step 2 and find out if we input these what the output would be. So if we substitute a negative 1, it'd be a negative 1 plus 2, which would be 2 minus 1, would be 1. 1 squared would still be 1. 1 times a negative 2 would be a negative 2. And a negative 2 plus 3 would be a 1. So then we'll substitute a 0 in. A 0 instead of an x would be a 0 plus 2 would be 2. 2 squared would be 4. 4 times a negative 2 would be a negative 8. And a negative 8 plus 3 would be a negative 5. So we have our vertex, and we have 2 other points. We should be able to graph this, and let's just do that. I'll use a green marker since I wrote it in green. So the vertex is negative 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Good. There's your first plotting point. Another plotting point would be a negative 1 and 1. So negative 1 for the x, the g of x would be 1. Good. And then a 0, negative 5. So x is 0, y would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our 3 points. So we have half of the parabola done. And just as a review, the first point of the vertex is also the axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry, meaning that that's the line that divides the parabola in half. And so, since it's symmetric, it reflects. Whatever you did to one side, you do to the other. So, if this line is, this plotting point is 1 to the right of the axis of symmetry, then on the other side, it would be 1 to the left. If this one over here, that's 5 down from, is 2 away to the right, then to be symmetric, you just have to go to the left, and we have the other half of our parabola. Okay, that's what we've learned up to this point. But now there's this new instruction. It says consider the function g. In example 3, graph f of x equals g of x plus 5. Now, let's talk about this. We've already graphed this g of x. This g of x has already been graphed. It's already been plotted and done. But now it's saying, let's try something new. Let's do the same g of x, but let's shift it over 5. And that shifting, that moving of it is called a transformation. It's transforming it. So all you have to do is take the same one that was already done, the same exact parabola that you've made, and move it over 5. And it's going to move over 5 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will be your answer. It's just transforming it or shifting it over 5. Okay? Now, it's really easy to do with this paperclip, right? That spit paperclip. I can just take the whole parabola and move it over 5 units. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Move the whole thing. But what if you don't have a paperclip? No fear. You can do that with any point on this graph. In fact, the quickest way to do it is just to choose points on the graph and move them all over 5. So I'll move this point over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's right here. We already did this one. I'll move this over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. And then you have your, that's it. You transformed it, and you have the new parabola. Just shift it over or transform it over 5 spaces. Okay. Some people do still get hung up on that. This is a positive 5, and we moved it to the left. So as a reminder, because people say, well, positive goes to the right. Remember, it's a negative h in the vertex form. So even though this is a positive 5, you're moving it over, because of the negative, you're moving it over to the left 5 spots. And if it were a, if this were a negative, you would have moved it over to the right. Okay, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this is helpful. I said this would be a quick one. It's barely covered in this section, so it's, but we do need to go over it because we will answer some questions as part of algebra, etc.